Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Okay, so tonight, for anyone who didn't hear the unofficial beginning, we have an amazing person. Chaya, on my personal perspective of it, Chaya has truly made a very big impact in my life and the lives of many others that I know. And we are so lucky to have her. Chaya is a wellness practitioner who uses somatic body work to unravel stress patterns and relieve chronic pain. She is a wife and mother who lives with awareness and integrates the somatic perspective within every aspect of her life. And we are so lucky to have her. Thank you so much. I'll pass that. If you're up for it, just we'll put over here, and then they'll be able to hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So thinking about what we were going to focus on tonight, it's kind of like Iyar is my thing. It's like the time of year that even if I haven't done anything like this the whole year, I come out of my hole and it's like, Iyar, it's healing. So it was kind of like, what's going on? You know, she said, you know, this is not just my work, it's my life. It's something that I would say take pride in, you know. This is how I live, and this is what I learn, this is what I do, and it's what I share with who I am, and what I do for myself is what I share with my clients, in obviously according to their needs. So as I was saying, well, what's going on for me? It actually made me realize something that had happened for me as we came out of Pesach. And kind of, well, we think of what's Pesach. Pesach is hard work. It's actually the physical, grueling work of taking each piece of chametz. Chametz is our ego. Chametz is our resistance. And actually taking each piece and trashing it. And I was thinking, well, what actually happened to me between Purim and Pesach? I actually had a scenario with one of my kids' school where they were trying to dig into one of my children's behaviors and what was going on, and being very judgmental, sometimes schools do. It's not a school in Crown Heights, so no one knows which school it is. It's okay. But just as a reflection of what was going on for me, and it was a lot of conflict. Not when I reflect back, not even so much between me and them, because my son is my son. He's going to be my son. He has special needs, so it's very complex. And he's going to be who he is, whatever I do for him. And, but I realized the energy in me was one of literally having to dig through, having to justify, as in like, what piece do I keep? What piece do I throw away? And how do I do it? And how do I get through this resistance? And Pesach vacation was amazing, because however hard it is, it's like your kids are yours, and you go on trips and you have fun, and we're all exhausted, but you're in a bubble and you just kind of really enjoy your children when you can actually have your eyes open after all the exhaustion. But then once you send them back to school, and then as I sent him back to school, I was suddenly like, came to the realization of, have I ever actually spoken to them about him, about his journey of having special needs, which is actually very different than most children's. And maybe that's why, maybe they actually don't understand his journey, and that's why they're not understanding him. And maybe if I was communicating better with them, I could actually, like, maybe this doesn't have to be an issue. And I picked up the phone to them and I spoke it through, and they were like, oh, I get it. And it's funny, what I realized, what Iyar means so much is that, in contrast to the Nissa and the hard work, the cleansing, the resistance, it's almost a living with the opposite of resistance, actually having that vulnerability, having that openness, having that ability to just say things as they are and communicate, and actually resonating with people so that you can be together. And obviously it was very interesting, because I always see myself as that person that does that, And what it made me realize is that sometimes Hashem puts you in that time and place. Like the Nissan was the Nissan, it was the energy of Nissan, and there was no fighting it. Like, I think I did an awesome job of doing Nissan, but Nissan's hard work. And it's amazing hard work. And it gets you to Iyar, where we don't have to have that. We have that higher energy of Hashem's doing the job. Which kind of brings to mind a story, like, the story of the man goes up to heaven and he sees the video of his life, and he's walking on the beach, and his whole life he sees two sets of footsteps, and he says, God, you're walking beside me, that's so kind of you. And then when he hits the really grueling part of life, he sees one set of footsteps, and he turns to God and says, like, God, where are you now? And he says, I'm holding you. And really, like, that is the energy of Iyar, of Hashem saying, I'm holding you, I'm with you, and we're going to make this, I'm going to actually pour down this energy of vulnerability on you, the ability to connect, and the ability to be together, to connect with other people, to connect with me, so that we can have this level of healing. And it's interesting because in somatic experiencing, I know many of you said, some of you said that you have some background, some of you don't. What we do is we do a few different practices called orienting and grounding, and they're all about connecting to a space around us, and connecting to ourselves, connecting to the space around us, connecting with people around us, and really accessing resources and tools so that we can feel the sense of safety, because we've all been through stuff. I mean, some of us have been through trauma, what we call trauma, and some of us have just been through life. It's like, to give you an example of, like a friend comes and slaps you on the back, and they're like, hi, and I like freeze up. Or like, when they come in, like someone comes in from behind and covers your eyes, and you're like in shock. And sometimes those are the biggest traumas, because you never actually get the chance to say, I'm traumatized. And so basically all of us have traumas, and all of us have this shock. And it's really about learning how to tap into the resources that we have in the world that allows us to access Iyar, that ability to feel held by Hashem. And kind of, we all kind of turn around at those warning times and say, God, where are you? And it's really just being able to, through the toughest times, and we all have them, just be able to say, like, I am held. So I was wondering if you'd all be interested in kind of just, I feel like maybe tapping into some of those resources, as kind of, we can go into this with kind of a more grounded perspective. So just the way I like to do this is, you can just notice you're all sitting on chairs, and just notice what the chair feels like. Some chairs are soft, some chairs are hard, and just notice what it feels like to be sitting on a chair. And as you notice yourself sitting on a chair, where do you notice that you're sitting the most of all your body? Where in your body do you notice that you feel the sense of sitting the most? Yeah. And then notice if your feet hit the ground and what the ground feels like. Is it warm? Is it cold? Is it hard? Is it soft? And as you're noticing this, notice what changes about your body. What I usually notice is my breathing. Just notice someone else in the room. You can just look at them. And notice how it feels to notice someone. And if you notice someone else noticing you, how does it feel to be noticed? And notice what your body does, what you notice in your body as you notice yourself noticing someone else, and you notice other people noticing you. And then you can just notice one thing in the room. So this is just one really short practice that helps, just set the stage so that we can kind of feel more peaceful, more calm, so we can slow down and actually do what we call arrive, to actually be here, be present with ourselves here. As we were saying, babies are always present, wherever they're feeling, they bring with them. And we can access that same peace, that same being here that babies have. So by using those tools, by actually tapping back into ourselves. Something else that came to mind as I was exploring what Iyar is, it's interesting that it's rainy season, so this really came to mind. The concept of Geshem, because Geshem, as like an older teenager, young adult, was something I always struggled with. The minute the sky was gray, I would have migraines, and it's science. The dampness in the air increases the pressure and it hurts. What? The damp. It really it gets into your sinuses. It's air pressure, and air pressure changes, they cause headaches. And I kind of accepted it. Rainy days I have headaches, gray skies I have headaches, and that's that. Until one day something made me question it, and I turned around to myself and I said, Geshem is Gashmias. Hashem wants to give me something, and I'm obviously not ready. I hate change. Change. No, I can keep the same, and I'm good. And I turned to myself and I said, yeah, I hate transitions. I hate change. But then I'll turn to Hashem and say, I want you to give me good things. And then I'll get a headache when he gives me Geshem, which is Gashmias. So I need to turn to myself and say, why? And something clicked one day. And I said, I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's a commitment for me. If Hashem's giving me something, I'm going to ask myself what it is that I'm resisting when he's giving it to me. And every time it rained, without fail, I'd get a headache. And I'd say to myself, okay, I feel it right here. It's pressing on my head, and I'm not being permeable. I'm being thick and hard and resistant, and I'm not taking it in. And I just sit with it, as we do in somatic work. We just sit with it. And I drew in as many resources as I could with, I'm here, I'm feeling the sense of presence and the grounding. And slowly but surely, my headaches lessened, and I'd actually feel like Geshem is Gashmias. Hashem wants to give me Gashmias, and every single time, and literally, I would see it every single time. You've been to my room in where I work now. I can tell you, it was the day that the tenant moved out of that room. It was a storm, and I booked a client for that night for 7:00, and she told me she would be out by 6. And I was like, I knew she was super clean, and I was like, I just need to sit on my massage table and I can work in there tonight. And it was a storm, and she was still waiting outside when my client came. Literally. And it was so much rain that night, and that room has been such a bracha. It's completely changed what I do right here so much. And I can tell you, since then, every single time, I can feel that there's a massive, massive rain. And I'm like, what's Hashem going to give me? And he always does. Mm-hmm. And Hurricane Ida, is that what it was called? The last hurricane, the one that everyone got flooded. Yeah. So again, it was pouring and pouring and pouring of rain. And I was watching it climb up, and I was trying to push it so it wouldn't flood my house. And at one point, I saw it coming up and up and up, and I knew it was coming up above where I could do anything. it was coming up above where I could do anything beyond to make sure that it didn't flood my house, and either would it wouldn't. Baruch Hashem, we didn't get bad damage. A door I discovered is amazing. So Baruch Hashem. But I literally at that point I actually just physically sat down in the mud, in the water, and it came literally till here once I was sitting, and I said, Hashem, I know you're going to give me something really good, because outside in the puddle.
Just to clarify.
In the puddle, it was pouring with rain, and the puddle was like this high.
Did you have a huge headache?
No, I didn't.
Why?
They usually do. Resist it.
That's exactly my point. This is after all this work, and I'm not saying it's easy work. It was a good 2 years of working through this. And this was just recent. Hurricane Ida, it was like this past year. Like I've had my room for 2 years, so that was also about halfway. I'd say it was right in the middle. When it was a massive thunderstorm, and at that point I was already able to see it. So like, something's like, coming through, and it's coming through in a really big way. And again, I could look back at that point and I could see a massive bracha came into my life. And Baruch Hashem, I was able to accept it and enjoy it, and it was fun sitting in the puddle. I can personally, in my own life, at this point, I can make the connection between Geshem and actual Gashmias. And I'm saying it's in Gashmias, like what I was saying, I guess my work room is also a spiritual thing, because healing is a spiritual thing. But then again, Gashmias is Ruchnias. Every bracha is a Ruchnias. Like every Gashmias is a Ruchnias. And I can see how in my life, every time I see that there's a Gashem, and I'm like this is too much, and then I'm like, but I'm open to Hashem's bracha. I actually am almost always able to make the connection to why it is that it's suddenly a massive Gashmias. That's my point. That the Geshem is Gashmias. Yeah.
Like what would be one example besides your headache going away, which is huge?
So after I was able to stop resisting, I was able to see the bracha. That was my symptom that I had. That was a physical symptom of resistance. And once I stopped resisting and was able to say, Hashem's healing, Hashem's sending Geshem to heal me because he wants to send me Gashmias in my life, then I wasn't resisting anymore. So I didn't have the headache, and I was able to accept the bracha. And I was able to, we obviously all have brachas, even if we have resistance, but then to be able to make that connections. And really, I feel so much of life is being not only to have brachas, but to be able to enjoy them. Like we all.
When you say Gashmias, like we saw like an extra adding in Gashmias?
Yeah. Yeah.
She had a room in her house that was not available to her. And then there was a rain, and suddenly that room in the house was available to her, and now it changed her life.
Yeah.
Like real Gashmias.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time it's actually, like my husband does some freelance work, so suddenly he'll get a new campaign that it's like everyone loves, and like he'll get a new campaign to work on that people love and they feel so supportive of. Whereas before he was working for something like he was doing a campaign that was like no, like was thinking per hour, but it's like when you find something that people are passionate about, you connect with them, and you're suddenly doing so much more, and that's Gashmias. So it is the Gashmias. So in addition to being the rainy season, it's very interesting because I've been studying lately about seasons besides in general, and I've noticed, like I guess a lot of people have spring allergies, and again, all these things are physical. The same as the rain is the air pressure. In spring, there's pollen. I almost like the way I see pollen is like almost like tree hormones. Like the trees are waking up, they're growing. We have our own hormones, and we all have our own hormonal issues and imbalances. And then comes the tree hormones, and it's like, and it sets you all off. And you can justify it and say, like, that's it. I'm going to be hormonal the whole spring. I'm going to have my allergies, and that's it. And then we can challenge ourselves to say, well, the trees are waking up, and that's waking me up. And especially those of us that have trauma, that's stuck in what we call freeze. It's a state where the body wants to kind of stay stuck. Winter's very comfortable for people that are in freeze because they don't have to respond to activation the same way as rain is too much. It's too much to be permeable, too vulnerable to be open to change. The same way to wake up to spring, to challenge, to growth, to expression, to take off your coat, to be seen beautiful. Yeah, it's very
I like my sweater. I'll keep it on as long as I can.
Yep. I'm a freeze person too. I completely relate. Completely relate. And again, it's just a challenge to turn around to ourselves and say, it's spring. I can wake. Oh, I wouldn't even say I can wake up. It's like, what am I afraid of waking up to? Where do I feel in myself this fear of waking up? And what is it about waking up that's too much for me? And to actually nurture ourselves and connect to ourselves so that we can actually start to feel the fear. And I love the expression feel the fear and do it anyway, because I feel like it's such a somatic concept. And people think that when you go into the self-compassion and the feeling the fear, that you're going to kind of flake out on everything. And I've been studying self-compassion a lot, and what they talk about is like there's a gentle self-compassion, which is the baths and the long walks and eating chocolate. I would actually say the long walks isn't in the category of gentle, because that's actually, and then there's the fierce self-compassion. When someone starts up with you, when are you going to just say, no, I'm not putting up with that? And so really it's about waking up to all sides of yourself and actually being aware of the challenge and not expecting it to be easy, because that's also part of this self-compassion, is saying, I know it's going to be hard and I'm going to show up for it anyway. To tap into some of the ideas of what we're doing in Iyar and what the Avodah is. So in Nissan, how far are we in? Okay, with this. In Nissan, we had Yetziat Mitzrayim. We went out Mitzrayim. And what's the Avodah there? It's the Avodah of Skafia. They left Mitzrayim. Baruch Ha'am, they went out, and there's an expression, you can take the monkey out of the jungle, but you can't take the jungle out of the monkey. So like monkeys, what are they? They, the instinctual creatures. And if they see food, they'll grab it. And whatever their instinct is, you can take them out of the jungle, but they'll still be monkeys. And in a sense, when the Yidden left Mitzrayim, that's, they've been so entrenched in the culture of Mitzrayim for so many years, they literally had to, in order for Hashem to take them out, they had to actually grab their dough and run out, because otherwise there would have been no way for them to be able to leave Mitzrayim. So this is the idea of the Chaylesh and Strasberg, like when someone has an illness and they heal from it, most often they'll still have a scar from it. They'll have something that they're left with that marks them. And that's the concept of Nisan. That's the concept of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And then we get the concept of Iyar, which is Hisapcha. And you see when we have the Omer, the Korban Omer on Pesach was barley, which is animal food. And then you have the Korban Shtei HaLechem, which was wheat on Shavuos, which is human food. And what's the avodah of the Omer? Every day to work on each one of the midas, to turn them over from the Nefesh Bahamis into the Nefesh Elokes. And when it says Anochi Hashem Rafecha, it says Kol Machla Shesamti B'Mitzrayim Lo Yasim Alecha. So when I read that line, I had an issue with it. We are all neshamas that were in Mitzrayim. We're all traumatized. We know that. We're traumatized from them. From then, I am saying, like, the trauma of Mitzrayim, it's in our genes. As Jews, we carry generational trauma, and Hashem saying to us, every machla that I put on Mitzrayim, I won't give to you, and that's not a possibility because I have it in me. So what is this concept of Iyar? The Rabbi Yitzchak Ginsburg, if anyone likes very, very deep, complex stuff, I love reading it very slowly and interpreting it. Yeah, unbelievable stuff. So he has one concept that he writes about, the Yad Hashem. So the Yad is the Yud, is the 10 fingers of Hashem, and the Daled is the 4 levels of Hashem's so-called surgery when he's healing. The first is the opening up of the site of the illness. The second is the cutting away of the damaged tissue. The third level is the cleansing it out of all the kind of the residue around the wound. And the fourth is the sealing it up and closing it up as if there was never any injury or any damage there at all. So this is a level of the surgery of the Yad Hashem. And when I thought of that, I thought of what this concept of Iyar is, this level of healing that Hashem brings us, where when we look at the trauma and we look at what this work is of the turning over of the Nefesh HaBahamis, of this concept of having to run away from Mitzrayim, of all the pressures and all the constraints and all the resistance that we were talking about before, what is it and why do we have it? And really to break it down in the Chesed Shebachesed, of the Chesed Shebigvura, each day, every tiny bit of each attribute. We don't do a week of Chesed and say, oh, Chesed. We actually break down what Chesed is. And we go into every crevice of our being and we sit with every piece as we did, when you actually sit with what each piece means to you and how it's functioning inside you. And you make the time for the process and you say, this is a part of my Nefesh Bahamis. This is a part of my trauma. And I'm going to work through this. I'm going to face up to each piece of each trauma and actually make space for it in my life and say, how is this going to be a growth journey for me? And to actually turning it over into Elikus. So again, practically, what does it mean to reorganize trauma? What does it mean to heal so that we can turn it into Elikus, so we can have this concept of Yad Hashem, so we can be healed in a way that it never was? Well, we have the Rebbe as our guide, and there's many stories. I read one in particular today about a man called Jaza, and he called up the Rebbe and he said, my son has cancer in his leg and it's going to have to be amputated, please help. And he got an answer from the Rebbe saying, I'm looking forward to hearing good news. And sure enough, he called back Friday and said, well, the scan was clear. And the Rebbe really believed in that healing. And he called us to believe in that level of healing. Yeah, where the scan was clear. It wasn't there. And he called us to believe in that level of healing. And he still does call us to believe in that level of healing, where we can really have, complete healing as if it never was. But from a practical perspective in my life, I was working with a client recently who had anger issues with her father had anger issues. And she was sitting with it and she was holding back and she was talking about the physical pains that she was having. And at a certain point, so she was saying she had this pressure in her neck. And I really encouraged her to actually get up and to push against me and to push me away. And I said, I represent your father. And I'm encouraging you to stand up to me and to push me and to find your strength, a peaceful strength, but a strength. And she was like, no, but why should I have to? And he should get over it and he shouldn't have this anger. And again, as we worked through it, she really came to terms with the fact that Hashem brought her into this. Hashem brought her into this journey with this father because she has a piece to do in this journey, and it's her gift to the world to show her strength, to actually show up and say, this is my space and no one will enter it. And she actually took time to actually find her space. When we talk about having Daled Amas, this is what we're talking about. This is my space and no one will enter it without my permission. And she worked through it, and she was really able to find that strength and to find the meaning, and to actually embrace her relationship with her father with all his issues, because at the end of the day, she's not going to change her father. She can only build a relationship with the father that she has with healthy boundaries on her side. And hopefully he'll respond to it too. We've yet to get to that part. This was recent, but she did amazingly. I'm really proud of her. So that was her story. It's interesting because actually my notes here, so I put in the idea of the gentle self-compassion and the fierce self-compassion, and we talk a lot about something called healthy aggression, because very often we kind of expect someone else to change. We expect no one to infringe on our boundaries, and when they do, we go and eat chocolate, and it's like, no, it's my responsibility to protect my boundaries. And I can eat chocolate if I want to, when I want to, but it's nothing got to do with the boundaries. Chocolate should never be anything got to do with boundaries. Boundaries are boundaries, and chocolate is chocolate. So it was really nice to see her actually realizing that, hiding away in her room wasn't an answer. She's denying her father relationship with her. She's denying herself relationship with her father, and even more, we take these issues to the next generation, and we all do anyway. But the more we work through, the more awareness we can do it with. And it's Hashem. She's.
But like, she's not gonna have a proper communication.
He can be angry.
What?
He can be angry.
So then she's not gonna have a proper relationship.
He's going to be angry anyway.
So is that really building a relationship?
Whatever relationship listen, if your relationship material, people, so it's an interesting one, because they say very often that there are times, I haven't seen it past, I have seen it in one case personally, actually. There was one relationship that I did fall away from, but it was very peaceful. A friend that we just stopped reaching out to each other. She was very critical. And as I did more and more of this, as I studied more and more of this and kind of naturally integrated it into my life, as I integrated it into my life more and more, I just stopped being tempted to call her, because
That's not building a relationship, that's like separating from a relationship.
yeah, but in every other case, I can have relationships with all kinds of people. And I have a friend I speak to, and she's very resistant to being self-aware. She's actually very into being self-aware, but she gets swept away with her emotions. And the whole time, if I'm giving her a suggestion and she's not taking it, and I'll just be like, okay, let's change the subject and we'll move on. And we have the funnest relationship, and everyone's like, how? Because I'm not trying to change her life. If we get into that rut of me trying to change her life, and I realize that she's not interested, it's like, change the subject, and we'll find a million other interesting things to talk about, because you know what? Her problems are not my problems. I love helping her.
You'll actually say like that shouldn't happen.
With her, yeah, but that's our dynamic. That's our dynamic. What I'm saying is, you find the dynamic that's healthy. With her, it's let's change the subject. With someone else, it will be something else. But it's a friend, and she's aware that that she doesn't like people to change. She likes to be able to sit in her problems, and I'm like, okay, fine, your problem, like, enjoy it. And then when she comes out of that space, and she'll laugh at it, and it's cool, like, it's great. But we can be friends, because I don't try to change her. However unhealthy her habits are, it's not my problem. I can have a friendship. So we shouldn't have to give up on our friendships, on our relationships, because someone else has problems.
I've also seen how somebody could set their healthy boundaries and their mode into the relationship, and the other person, without anybody trying to change them, but the other person kind of adjusts
That's it.
based on that. And it
Yeah.
can make a very powerful shift, and then they can, even though you never tried to change the other person, just by you working on yourself, that in of itself will work.
Yeah, it is. And they say in marriage, they say most of the good therapy happens independently. I don't agree completely in marriage. I do think it's very independently. I don't agree completely because I do think marriage therapy is very, very important. But I think they both have a very powerful impact. I don't think either work without the other. And for that reason, I think it comes to a point where there's something that has to be done together, but so much of it can be done alone, and the other person does move along. It's kind of really amazing to see. So some more on health and resistance. It's very interesting how we see isn't it, do you ever find like there'll be someone that's like homeopathy doesn't work, or they'll be like my kids always react to antibiotics, or everyone will have their story about healing and they'll always come true. It's freakily scary. I wish it wasn't. But I look around and it's like everyone has their story about like the certain things that always work for me, or for my kids, and people are like, what you like, how do you do that? It's such a waste of money. And then I'll turn to them about their things, the methods that they're using. I'm like, my kids always react to it. Why? And then however much I'm like, they're not going to react next time, and they always do. And it's that I haven't found a solution. I'm still working on it. But I'm working on it. It'll happen. It'll happen. We'll talk again in 2 years' time. So what? Yep. Yeah, I'm completely a researcher. I collect information, I collect stories, I organize it, and then everyone gets to benefit from a piece of it. So there's someone called Gabriel Mate. He's an expert in addiction. He's an excellent resource. And he is actually his phrase that everyone knows of him, that he says, ask not why the addiction, ask why the pain. And it's really kind of the core of all his work, of finding the pain and healing the pain, the same way as we were talking about her father's anger, why she's taking it in, and kind of that's her pain in her case. Had need to kind of hold on to her father's anger. So he writes a very interesting book called When the Body Says No. And he explains how in all his work, and he studies people that he's a researcher, and all his patients, and they have all these like nervous system conditions, but the very physical ones, the tremors and the breaking down of the nervous system. And he said he once had a patient come in with a condition, and he said, I know it's not that because they're not nice enough. Yeah, and it wasn't actually, it was a completely different issue that wasn't an absolute autoimmune breaking down of the nervous system, and they just weren't nice enough to have that. So in a sense, it's very interesting because it comes back to the same thing of what is nice and what is health, what is this concept of Ani Hashem Rafecha, and what is living without restriction. Is it running to your room when your father screams, or is saying, I deserve space in this home, and I'm not going to take up his space, but he's not going to take up mine either. And finding that presence in yourself, finding that safe space in your own existence, in your environment, as we said, even in the chair that I'm sitting on, knowing that it's holding me and I don't have to do anything to be sitting on this chair. Just knowing that this chair was created to hold me and it's strong enough to hold all of me. That just, think about it, a chair. I have to say more. It's like a chair. We can go into, all the amazing healings Hashem created. But we can keep it so simple and say, Hashem created a chair to support me. And this chair has everything I need in order to hold space for me to be here. And we can really kind of take in the simplest healings that Hashem put in the world, the simplest.
No, finish your sentence.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry that I missed when you said the person didn't really have a movement disorder because they weren't nice enough. I missed that. I'm sorry.
Yeah. What he found was that all the people that had complete nervous system breakdown were lacking in boundaries, basically. And in the way he put it, they weren't nice enough. It was all people that had completely given up their life, had their parents move in when they were sick and looked after them and nursed them until their death. And then their parents passed away, and then they got this nervous system dysfunction.
So he found that in order to heal, they needed to learn how to make boundaries.
Yeah.
What's the name of this person?
Gabor Mate. The book is called When the Body Says No.
Gabor.
Yeah, I personally.
Did they get healed when their movement disorder?
So you can read the book. I'll tell you, I didn't make it to the end of the book because, I think it's an important philosophy to know, but it's a bit depressing because it's a lot of work to get through it and to know how damaging it is to the body to have a lack of boundaries. I don't think it's helpful. Which is
once they healed from learning how
so
to
some
make boundaries,
years,
did they get healed?
if you catch it early enough, you can heal. Yeah, a lot of them were way too far in. They had full physical breakdown of the nervous system, which wasn't healable. Which is why it's good to read a chapter or two or to talk about it, the importance of it. But I wouldn't recommend that that's the book you buy. I think it's like a good title to know. There's a few books that I'll have on my shelf and I'll be like, that book, but don't buy it. And all my clients will be like, well, no, like that book, but don't buy it. It's called When the Body Says No. There's another book called The Body Keeps the Score. And again, I'm like, the title says it all. It's a book. It took me 6 months to read. You don't have to buy it, but just read the title. That's different. It's a great book. It's just very tedious. So again, there's a lot of concepts that are important to have in your awareness, but to actually sit and read how broken these people were and how they were literally killing themselves. I'm like, you need to know, but you don't need to read chapter after chapter after chapter. So at that case, when they were, I see people I see people like me and you, and I see people healing, and I see people really overcoming thyroid disorder by finding their voice. I see it because it's on the level of what we're dealing with. I mean, I hope that most of us are relatively healthy with our small issues. And you talk about like blood sugar regulation is about dealing with exactly what we're talking about now, resistance, like that resistance to balance. A lot of these things are related, and that's a lot of the things I do see people finding that strength and that ability to regulate themselves, and it does pay off physically. Yeah, so yeah, it is possible on this level to heal through emotional work. Like emotional healing is very, very powerful, and it's possible to heal. And again, like we do it, we look at ourselves in this state, and we, as where we are now, deal with it so that we as I said, he was like a hospital doctor dealing with he was dealing with the most horrific stuff, like crazy, yeah. Got your answer?
What?
Got your answer?
Yeah, I mean, I know about if they got better.
Yeah.
I think you're telling me that if they did the work that they did.
What I'm saying is a lot of them left it too late. Like he got them when they were at their end, but even then.
Like, when is the end? Like when they were old, or they were?
No, like they were in the hospital. They were in the hospital. Like they were coming to him. He's like the top there is,
And
like
so you're saying once in the hospital was too late for them?
Most of them, yeah. Yeah, he speaks a lot about, yeah. But that's it. We're not there. That's my point. We're not there, and we're dealing with our stuff now. So we don't go there. Yeah. So the Rebbe talks about Chachkut Betzaingut and Simchas Paras Geder, and I used to have a hard time with these lines because it's like Chachkut Betzaingut. Like, what does that mean? Like, just put a Band-Aid on it and it's all going to be better. But I find that sometimes when you really are able to sink into these concepts and really say, what do they mean to me? You can come up with a whole nother layer of what they mean to you somatically. Like, what does it mean to think good? Does it mean, as I said, to put a Band-Aid on it and to just kind of say it's okay? Or is it to say, sorry, was it to say what's in it for me? And as I said, with my struggle with my son of Nissan, I was like, what's in it for me? And actually, for me, I actually realized that in having to justify myself, I made a really big mistake. And I can own up to it, that I made under pressure a choice for my child that it wasn't a mistake by anyone else's standards. By me, I realized that I had made what other people would see as the right choice, and I realized it was actually the wrong choice. And to actually realize how it's so important for me to own my parenting and to not have to justify myself, not have to tell anyone what I'm doing, and just actually do the right thing for me. Thank you. To do the right thing for me, because I know my child, I know his journey, and I know what the right thing is, even if it's not conventional. And so, to actually engage with it and say, I'll probably never ever do that again. I'll probably never make that mistake again. I'm going to make mistakes for the rest of my life. But to actually realize that I came out stronger, and I know that I have strength, I have boundaries, and I can be questioned, and it's okay. And no one's reporting me to the ACS. Like, we all have our fears, every one of us do. And when someone questions me, I'm like, well, if I'm doing something non-conventional, maybe someone will report me to the ACS. And no, they won't. And to actually realize that making decisions on other people's accounts has consequences, and you live with the consequences, not them. And all these things, when you realize as you go through these processes, and you realize when people step into your boundaries, and you actually learn how to find the boundary and realize, I want to have my boundary, I deserve to have my boundary, and I will stick to my boundary next time when it comes up in this way, and next time will come up in a different way, and Hashem's challenging me to grow even more. He always does. That's a very kind and caring God that will always present the challenge very, very slightly differently, because he wants us to grow some more. So that's my take on. Yeah. So that's my take on Chachkut Betzaingut, Simcha Paras Geder, all these kinds of concepts that we kind of think that we're just gonna wipe problems away. It's not really. It's about engaging with the problem and seeing Hashem's goodness within the problem. It's very interesting, actually, that sometimes they do show up in a more conventional way. My father was telling me today that his father had cancer while his brother was engaged, and he was engaged for a whole year. And he actually didn't make it to the wedding, but he was alive by the wedding, and he passed away a month later. So really, like, the power of motivation is actually sometimes very direct and very seen. So it was really cool. And something else interesting is that the Rebbe actually didn't, when he spoke about the Beis Chaylim, he said not the Beis Chaylim, the Beis Refuah. So words are really important, and intention in healing really, really matters. That we come into things not with I'm sick, I need to heal this, but Hashem's provided me with a healing opportunity. And I'm going to take it, I'm going to embrace it, I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to come out stronger from it. Where are we up to?
If you have more,
I do. Yeah, you can ask. So it's very interesting, and I have such a hard time explaining it because there's so much to it. I like to refer it as a form of guided meditation, but it's not really, because it's guided in the sense that it's prompted, but it's not like a guided meditation will have a format. This will just have an introduction, which is basically like setting the stage of the resources. You were here right from the beginning, weren't you? Yeah. So we did like, I can feel myself, and actually you notice how it affects your breathing, but then in an individual session, well, like the person with her father's anger, with her father's anger, so she started to actually feel the tension, and she could feel her father's invasion and the pressure that she felt from her father, and she started to work through that. Then we went into boundary work, and her actually pushing against me and moving across the room, so she was able to find her boundary. Then we found her introduced voice. If the pain was able to say something, what would it say? And then she went into what she would tell her father. And then we went into, well, I heard you, but I'm not convinced that you meant it. So she was actually had to say it again and again until she was actually convincing to me and convincing to herself. That's like, yeah, you don't mess with me. And then she was able to process it and how that affected the sensation of her body and her whole, the way her body felt different. So really every session will be like 100% different. Like some sessions will have tons of movement. I had one session with someone where she was literally went through in like 3 sessions. I could see her tracking movement from birth till about 5 years old. And literally throughout each session, she was like curled up like a baby. And then she was doing these thrashing toddler movements and tantrums. And then she was doing like preschooler, like lots of like climbing and self-expression stuff that she wasn't able to do as a preschooler because she was so restricted. And just physically, she was just going through all the movements. No emotional process, no story, just all movement. That's all she did in 3 sessions. And it was amazing. She felt like, I can be an adult now.
Do you do like massaging, or you do
like so somatic experiencing isn't hands-on. It does have a hands-on element with the boundaries. I was the pushing, but it's all kind of from her. I'm just kind of the boundary kind of setter. But I do somatic body work, which is kind of helping people access it through hands-on healing. It's different. So it's kind of, a lot of people feel it's a bit like cranial. Yeah. So that's it. But any hands-on healing has that element. It's interesting because there's something called TB, which is basically the trademark for somatic body work that I was going to study. My kids were all sick at the time, so I didn't. But it was, I would have loved to do it. And it's interesting because all the people that did it, what they came out with was that they had that from the somatic experiencing, they'd got amazing results. But sometimes when there's so much generational trauma, people are stuck in such a free state that it's so hard for them to access all this stuff. They're so under the freeze that you need to do some of the releasing the freeze for them before they can do it themselves. So that's what it is. It's basically that channeling, tapping into their freeze.
Yeah, hands-on. So how do you do that? What do you mean hands-on? What do you put your hands on?
Wherever it is.
So how does that compare with craniosacral?
So that's what I'm saying. Cranial has a very, I feel like I've never taken a full cranial course, but most of my teachers have studied cranial and communicated parts of it. And I've done a lot of cranial for myself, and a lot of my friends have studied cranial, but there's something about a certain protocol, a certain system, and a certain language that cranial uses that they use. So it's a system. As far as the outcome, the process, the listening, the rhythms are very, very, very similar. But the protocol and the language and the methodology of cranial is very, very specific to them. It's not that different, but I'm saying the process and the outcome is not that different. The protocols and the language and the method, not the method, the methodology, that's what's very specific about cranial, but a lot of people say it feels very similar. I mean, if there's trauma in an organ, you get into an organ and you help it renegotiate. The same way as a cranial practitioner would listen into an organ and help do exactly the same thing.
Would you say it's mostly intuitive, or is there a lot of methodology to the
I would say to the same level, just the language we use is slightly different. It's also got a method, you're feeling in to the body's language I feel like cranial is quite intuitive. You have to be intuitive to do cranial. And in the same sense, yeah. And it's interesting because my first experience with somatic experiencing, the teacher was kind of saying, oh, all this energy stuff. And she was like laughing at it. And then she was doing some resistance work, some hands-on, like setting boundaries. And she had her hand, I think, like on two different points in the body. And I could see the connection from across the room. And I'm like, you must be joking that you're laughing at this stuff because you're doing it. It was quite like funny. And like I told her, like, a healer's a healer. You can't get away from it. Anyone could say, oh, energy, and if you're, I mean, even as parents, we're healers, as friends, we're healers, as teachers, as whatever roles we show up in, like a healer's a healer. It's very interesting actually, because just does anyone know Alana? I'm sure someone must have heard of her. Alana, you must have heard. Yeah, you know Alana?
Alana Hershkowitz.
Okay. So I used to teach as I was kind of setting up when I first moved here, and I was kind of like just needed something to do other together with my massage. And it was just after I had my twins, and I had got an appointment with her, Miracles and Miracles. And I turned to her and I said, why do I keep getting pulled into teaching jobs? And I really want to be doing only massage, and kind of it's just not coming right at that point. It wasn't, I was doing it, but I didn't feel it was there. And she said, because there's healing in teaching and it still needs you. And it was kind of really hit me very, very, very powerfully how I had my image of what I need to be doing. Baruch Hashem, that is what I'm doing now. But at that point, obviously, the classroom still needed me. And I did it for a couple of more years after that. And then it kind of just faded away. I didn't get offered such good positions anymore. And I felt more established, and, it just kind of settled into the background. But it's very powerful how healing shows up. The healing that each of us need to be doing shows up wherever we need to be doing it. And we have a plan of what we want for our lives, and obviously we should follow our dream. But sometimes if we're still being pulled in a certain direction, it's for a reason, for the moment, until our dream comes true. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you give an example? You said you were talking about, you also do somatic body healing, right?
Yeah.
So can you give an example of what an issue would be and what you would do, for example?
Yes, I had a client with very severe anxiety, like OCD type of anxiety, where she was having a very hard time. She had a teaching job. And she was having a very hard time going to the classroom. And she came, we worked through different things that were coming up in her body. At the beginning, it was very organ related, her kidneys, her liver. As we went on, different parts of her brain showed up. Her amygdala, there's a part of the brain, I can't remember what it's called, but it's got to do with repetitive thoughts. We worked a lot with that, and then connecting it back to the amygdala. And we worked through different things. And it was very interesting because at one point, she said her toughest class, she was doing a kashrus lesson, and she brought in, I think it was a chicken to, I know, better her than me. No. It's funny because for someone with anxiety, she had like really bad anxiety. Yeah, she is. And I told her that you should know she's a Chassidus in Borough Park. And as she was going through it, and she's like, it's taking so long, it's so hard, will I ever overcome my anxiety? And I kept on telling her, you know what? Hashem brings you here, and it's your strength that your students need. And she's like, but it's not that type of school. It's never going to happen. Like, we're not vulnerable. Like teachers are teachers. We're not meant to be human. We're meant to just show up to class and teach. It's not like, oh, my teacher has anxiety too. No, I'm not allowed to have anxiety. And no one's allowed to know that I have it. And I need to cover up. And I said, okay, so functionally you will cover up, and you're doing a great job. But Hashem gave it to you for a reason. And kind of, as long as it's still in your life, it's in your life. And there's nothing you can do about it other than keep on showing up here and keep on doing the work at home. And Baruch Hashem. So anyways, so she was in class, and she had this chicken, and she turned to the students and she said, you should know the chicken soup from this chicken every single year without fail is the best chicken soup ever. And you can even come to my house on Friday night to taste it. And one of these cool kids, I mean, cool, Borough Park Hasidish, but every class has the cool kid, came up to after class and said, Mrs. Whatever, can you offered that we can come to your house to taste your chicken Friday night. I spoke to the other girls, and we really want to. Can we? And she's like, you're for real? And she's like, yeah, I'm for real. We really want to come to your house on Friday night and taste your chicken soup. So she went to the principal, and she asked the principal, and the principal happens to be Arp's neighbor, and she said, yeah. And she made a farang on Friday night, and all the kids came over and they tasted her chicken soup. And this was not a farang, as in a kumzit. And yeah, and this was her toughest class for someone with anxiety, and she said it went so well. She had that, like, she said she actually sat there with them and sang with them, and she enjoyed their company. And remember, this is a Borough Park school where you're not human, you don't have a house. And she was able to actually, from that process of working through it, not only actually become comfortable working for the class teaching, but actually bring something so precious to these children who are children just like our children, and they need that connection with their teachers. And she said, I'm never going to do it. Our school doesn't believe in it. And the principal said, yeah. She did the right thing. She asked permission, and they said, yeah. So that's just one person's journey of, so there was a lot of the physical process of, it was a lot of uterus stuff, of connecting to her creativity. As I said, I mentioned kidney, liver, and then there was lots of brain stuff, a lot of spine stuff, flexibility.
So you massage?
So some people, if they're coming to me for chronic pain, I can tell you someone else's story, because that was more of the somatic, just alignment. I had someone, literally, I only ever saw her once. She literally walked in like this, like her head was stuck. And I was like, okay, so what's been going on? She said, my husband was in hospital for 3 weeks, and I thought he wasn't going to make it. and it was a miracle. He's alive, he's home, he's healthy. I can't move my neck. And I was working on her, and we were doing the stretching and, the range of motion stuff. And it was coming, and I'm like, there's something else. And I said to her, what happened when you were 18? And she said, my father passed away.
How do you know?
How did you know?
Yeah, how did you know it was
I
like
didn't.
18?
I didn't. I just said it. it's random. It's random. It's random. And I'm not. No, yeah. No, but very often I'll say between the ages of 15 and 21.
But how do you like? There's something.
There's something in the body has the body. Yeah, it's a body memory. When you're listening, you hear it. It's just.
It's when it's happening in tune.
Yeah.
You're always power. You should also be in tune.
I wouldn't even call it powers. It's just if you're listening carefully enough, and if you've listened long enough, it's listening long enough to actually know that when you hear something, to feed it back to the person, so you can actually. Like I could say 18, and she'll be like, no, it was 22. But she was in that sense of 18, of that in between phase of I'm grown up but not quite ready to be independent yet, which is what the concept of 18 is. Yeah. It's not a number, because the body doesn't know numbers, the body knows stages. And when I see that beginning of the emergence of independence, I'll call it 18. It might have been 22, but in her case it was pretty close. And she said, my father passed away. And I said, one second, you said your husband just about made it. Yeah. You thought he wouldn't, and you got stuck there. And now he's made it. Your body's like, oh, now I can freak out and say, she wasn't able to do it while he was sick, because she was managing. And the minute her body could start talking, it spoke and said, I got stuck here. And she walked out full range of motion. I never saw her again. Hopefully, because she kept her full range of motion. No. This was about 3/4 way through the treatment. After we'd done all the range of motion stuff.
What range of motion when you massage her neck?
The movements, the stretching, the massage, I'm saying it's more than just massage. There's muscles. Some of them you can't massage, but you have to actually like cracking? No, I don't do cracking. I don't believe in cracking. Yeah.
Why don't you believe in cracking?
Because it's like you push and shove, where's the support? It's exactly the opposite of the somatic. It's like I expect you to be strong and straight without giving you any support, which is exactly the opposite. So no, so I have a chiropractor that I love. I was there with my daughter today, and my daughter, who was very, 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 very quiet, she literally was on the table, did not stop talking. He was working in her mouth, and she was just jabbering away. And we were just laughing. And he said it's going to take 9 months. And he's been going to her. I've taken her, I think, for 8 treatments over the course of 5 months. And she was literally could not keep her mouth shut talking. And I think that's but then again, he's not all about spinal alignment. He's about creating a support system throughout the body.
And massage doesn't do that.
It does. I mean, I use practitioners that work like me. I'm saying I can tell you his name. He's unbelievable.
Close by, far away.
Williamsburg. Yeah.
I love that system though. It's providing the body the tools for it to heal itself in a certain sense. That is such a chiddush.
For what? Chiropractor or for
Systematic.
Yeah, it's the system.
Or not, because there's certain
That's kind of that's what I said. Then there's such a hashgacha that was there today, and that we were laughing at literally how much progress she's made, and literally her whole personality is like it's a whole different thing from physical work, and it's amazing. But that's what happens when you set the stage of support. Most chiropractors will create an expectation without putting in the support. And that's why I won't go to those kind of chiropractors.
Like I went to one that stretched my back. Is that
That what?
stretching my back?
Stretch?
I felt like I was taller afterwards, even though I didn't look at that.
There's not, that sounds nice. I'm saying no, the
It's
stretch.
really painful. He held my neck, the chair pulled in, and I'm like,
Oh, no,
He did
okay.
a great job. It was a lot.
Right, so like when they crack your back, you think it's like
I don't like it.
I feel so good afterwards when they do like a good chiropractor when he like just like takes you, just like pulls me like, because like I get released in my chest and he has to like.
So maybe for you it works. I know that for myself, most often when I go for good treatment, I like walk out and I'm like I want to dance. So that's for me what it is. Like I know my body's flowing. I can feel that I'm moving well, and I feel motivated to move. So whatever it is, you have to know yourself. I'm anti-clicking because for me, it's kind of an expectation of the body. And I think also there's a reason why discs get pulled on. When I do a lot of pelvic work, it's a lot of like, and I work with tailbones and I see when they're crooked, and it's not just a tailbone. You can't just move a tailbone. There's the whole pelvic structure, and there's all these muscles that are holding it in place. And I watched tailbones move. I just worked on someone, and literally in one session, her tailbone went from being like 0.5 centimeter to the side to being dead center. I can't say it always happens.
Well, depends. And that's what I'm saying.
It depends. It depends what. So that's it.
The muscles around it, and you continue supporting the muscles around it. So then the pelvic bone, not the tailbone, is not going to fight it. But when you move the bone without the muscles supporting it,
100%.
then the muscles are going to keep pulling it in that direction. It's just it's a different mindset. You can go to have the same motion. It's such a different mindset.
Yeah.
Wait, can you see it? You have to like feel it.
The tailbone? The tailbone is deep. You have to and you have to measure right down the spine and find it.
For walking, can you like see it, or you need to like feel it out? Like anything with spine or.
So if someone's rib thrusting, that's very obvious. From standing, you can see a whole sway back when someone's rib thrusting. Rib thrusting, when they're like kind of sticking out, when their ribs like this is rib thrusting. How old is she?
5.
It's very hard at that age because it's such an in-between. It's such an in-between age, and I don't know anyone. I don't know. It could be. There's something called the galant reflex that could be, and you can hold her. If you want to do it yourself, just hold her mid back and see if it helps. Google the galant reflex. There's a few exercises, but you can just do gentle holds down the spine. What? No. It's a sway back. It's a sway back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like this. It's a sway back. It's when the belly sticks out, because with the massive bellies. Rib thrust.
But she doesn't have it, like, I don't know. If
She doesn't?
You see how she stands. Always standing like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would also maybe do some like diaphragm work, some upper belly massage. That is probably, yeah. Because she at this point she probably can't. And then you can also, you know what I love doing with my kids? Animal movements. So animal movements. It's like, oh, let's all crawl like a snake, or that way you give her options.
Like there's a cat.
What?
Something like you go down.
Yeah, cat cow. Yeah. That, like, just to give options. Yeah. It's very interesting because I was actually thinking about the story of the client who had their father with the anger issues, and to relate it back to the idea of the Omer and the converting on Nefesh Bahamis. To me, what I found most apparent about what is being a human, what's being a yid, and what we see in something that somatic experiencing talks about a lot, is the idea of having options. you know, I don't have to stick up for myself. I don't have to carry away. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to eat chocolate. They're all options. They're all possibilities. And I don't have to, I can do a part of each. And it's like, and when I first learned somatic experiencing, everyone, like the biggest question is like, is it this or that? And she's like, there's no or, there's and, you know, and it's just the ability to kind of not be all the way there, like not to expect yourself to, it's not like, am I going to get a migraine like when it's going to rain, or am I going to be able to be perfectly okay with everything? No, I'll just be where I'm at right now.
You don't get migraines anymore, right?
No.
Amazing.
I still get spring allergies. We're working on that. And what was the thing I was saying? I'm like my next goal. There was something. What was it? There was something I was saying. I'm like, no, I'm not even like, I'm like at the early days that will come back in 2 years, and I'll be, yeah. Well, the spring allergies are a little better this year, but I'm a bit coughing.
I'm just reading about that.
What about
I could send you the article.
about the emotional stuff?
Yeah.
I love
There's
it.
a website as well.
Yeah, because I'm very passionate. I have seen massive progress over the past 2 years, but I still have it. Like,
I just stay off in Houston Parkway if I can live in
yeah.
They walk up different blocks and they're all on the same tree.
Oh, yeah. You feel like different trees have less of an exposure.
I have the same tree exposure a lot and just a lot of it and many times.
It's
I think that
interesting.
has to do with it.
It makes sense from a physical perspective, like from the hormonal perspective. If you see it as like what I was saying, the tree hormones, it kind of makes sense. It does make sense.
So what about men?
They also have hormones.
Yeah, and they also have freeze. Like I'm saying, the reason why it's that freeze is that I don't want to wake up. I don't want to have to process this. I don't want to have to engage with what the challenge is. And yeah.
Are you talking about women's hormones or the trees having hormones and us getting a reaction?
Yeah, no.
A physical reaction.
You know, it's a physical reaction to the fact that the trees are waking up and they're calling us to wake up. It's funny because I think there are less men with allergies, and
like that's not that, it's not a hormone, it's the trees are.
Yeah, but they're calling us to yeah. Yeah.
Last year was really
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a question. I think we'll finish off with this question, and then
Okay.
whoever wants to stay and keep chatting, they can. But
Yeah.
there's a question about somatic health in relation to mental health.
What is the question?
Mental health.
Someone
has
mental health
challenges.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take it kind of however I take it. When someone, I mean, like I was speaking about someone that had OCD and anxiety, it was a very safe grade of it. And I was the only practitioner, she was saying, and I kind of said, like, she made amazing progress. When I'm working with people with anorexia, bulimia, drug addiction, I won't be the only practitioner working with them. And I always tell them, I'm the one that will give you permission to experiment, do anything you want. You need someone that's going to be there to keep you safe. You need anorexia, bulimia, drug addiction, you need a psychiatrist. You need someone that can medicate as needed. You need someone that can admit you to a facility as needed. You need someone that's going to make sure that you're in the safe zone.
Wait, but it doesn't, yeah.
Well, no, so what I'm saying is there's priority is you need to be safe. So if there's dealing with severe drug addiction, with anorexia, bulimia,
like if you're
they're
a
not
danger to yourself, you need to know that you need to take care of those parameters, then you can work on yourself at the same time, but like
so
you
yeah.
need to have a basic safety.
So that's what I'm saying. I won't be the only practitioner. I'll expect them to have a psychiatrist, or if it's kind of borderline, what if they don't? Then I don't feel safe. Yeah.
What about like depression and anxiety?
So I work a lot with postpartum depression, with anxiety, like the level of anxiety that I was talking about with this woman, she was literally, should I quit my job? Should I not quit my job? But that's not dangerous. What would have happened? Her husband was making enough money to get by. She would have quit her job. It would have been okay. I wasn't worried about her having a psychiatrist. Someone that could potentially overdose. And if they don't have a psychiatrist, that's not responsible. I can't be working with them when I don't feel like they're safe, because I could be bringing up stuff.
Right.
You don't know when you start engaging with your trauma what's going to happen. And if they're on abusing drugs, I can't take responsibility for that. I won't.
And how does this process work with something like depression or anxiety? Or
I feel like that was a really good one. I had another person with OCD also, and it was before I learned somatic experiencing, and she actually had a therapist. It was quite severe, and after about 3 sessions, she hadn't told the therapist that she was working with me, and the therapist turned to her and was like, what happened to you? Like, you're actually doing what I asked you to do. and I barely see her. I saw her like for 6 weeks weekly, and then again 6 times of like every 2 weeks. And now she'll call me when she's in a rut. Every 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes 3 months, just as needed. And she'll call me, and sometimes if I don't have an appointment for 2 weeks, by the time I see her, she'll be like, I feel better already. I just needed to connect to the fact that I'm going to do something for myself, and then I could kind of get my act together and realize I just have to go over it. And she still has OCD, but she just got herself a job. She's amazing, and she completely manages her life with OCD. And that's always my goal. My goal with people isn't to not have OCD. Specifically with OCD, it's like, okay. So when she makes challah, she'll warm up the water and check that it's the right thing. And she has her whole ritual. And it's like the challah gets made, her kids get fed, her kids get hugs, and she actually got herself a job now. And what could be better to live a good life? So yeah. Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Okay. I think I'm gonna say thank you so much.